When I was in secondary school, I had a really good physics teacher from the ages of 15 to 18, I think, when just at the time when I was deciding what I wanted to study at university and what I wanted to do as a career, he gave me this passion for physics that I think really informed my choice to be an engineer and to study engineering. And he was a very smart man and a very charismatic and good with people, and it's a really great teacher. Not just a great physicist, but a great teacher. He was great at communicating the ideas of physics and what he thought was interesting about it, and making other people excited about physics. I think he had such an intelligence that he could have been making a lot more money as an engineer or as an investment banker or one of those other fields that requires people with very high intelligence and good skills with numbers, but he chose to be a teacher, and he subsequently inspired myself and many more of his pupils to go into technology fields and to be passionate about science and physics. And the reason I'm telling you that story is that I want to talk to you today about those kinds of people who are great at communicating exciting ideas and making other people passionate about things that they are passionate about. I was thinking about this after watching a video made by the YouTube channel That Guy T, who you may have heard of, and he was talking about Candace Owens in the wake of Kanye West's Twitter storm, which I'm not going to talk about, but suffice it to say that Candace Owens, who is a conservative activist, commentator, political commentator, I don't know what you call her, vlogger, she's an internet personality, has gained a lot of notoriety and fame recently because she was named in a tweet by Kanye West that was hugely controversial. But in the video by That Guy T, he criticised her for not contributing any original ideas or any original thoughts to the conservative movement or to the young conservative movement that's going on at the moment. He accused her of just copying the ideas and the sentiments that other conservative voices are saying at the moment and making all of her arguments out of things she's heard other people say. I don't know whether that's true or not in her case. I'm not a big fan of her videos or her speeches. I've never been particularly interested in anything that I've heard her say, although I don't have anything against her in particular. But despite me not knowing much about Candace Owens and not knowing anything about That Guy T, I still thought that it was perhaps a petty criticism. Maybe she is a hack and she has nothing to offer, but I think the way that he was criticising her didn't sound like a valid criticism to me. I think if Candace Owens is communicating effectively the conservative ideas of the current zeitgeist and making people passionate about conservative politics and being persuasive to people who've never heard that kind of point of view before, then I think she's doing something very valuable. And it actually takes a lot of skill to be that good a public speaker and having good rhetorical skills like that. It's still valuable. It's still a great thing to do with your life if you can be passionate about the things that you believe in and to make other people passionate about those things. Obviously, it's not always a good thing if you're a cult leader or a fascist dictator, but in the case of Candace Owens, I think she is presenting conservative arguments in a way that is palatable to people who have never heard those arguments before, and she's been able to influence the minds of the likes of Kanye West, who's a hugely influential figure. I think criticising her on the grounds of contributing nothing new is a little bit missing the point. It's sort of like accusing my physics teacher of not coming up with any new principles or doing any new research into the field of physics. It's kind of not his job. He's a really good teacher, and that is what he wants to do with his life, and he's providing a great service to the people who he teaches. And to say that he's not contributing to physics as a science is not quite correct. He's not contributing directly, but by making other people passionate about physics, he's helping to create a culture of physics-loving people. And of course, he's not going to be able to change the whole world that way, but that's more than most people do, right? Is to influence the lives of several hundred students is still something special, and Candace Owens' reach is even further than that. And perhaps it's because Candace Owens is a young, attractive woman that she's so popular, or perhaps it's because she's black and she can get away with saying things that other people can't say about racism in America. But the fact is that she's doing a lot to further the cause of conservatism in the world. And if you're a conservative, then I think that should make you happy. Of course, if you're not a conservative, then it probably won't. But I think that Guy T's criticism of her is not it comes across as somewhat petty and missing the point, is my point in this video. But I think it's important to point out that Candace Owens doesn't just mechanically repeat things that she's heard other people say in an attempt to sound clever, which is what I see a lot online, but she's actually taking on other people's thoughts and arguments and their ideas. She sort of incorporated them into herself, and she broadcasts them out in a sort of new context, and she frames matters in her own special way and makes people excited on it. She puts her own rhetorical spin on other people's ideas and makes it intriguing to listen to. To mechanically repeat what you've heard other people say is not particularly useful. It's for one thing, it's just not effective. If you're just repeating somebody else's arguments and somebody else's thoughts, it's going to come across as false, and maybe you'll win some internet arguments that way, but you won't be able to reach the heights of Candace Owens, and you won't be noticed by Kanye. It's just not very effective to be just repeating the words of others. But not just that, it's also bad for the person doing that, to do that. To just repeat things that other people have said is not a good way to grow as a person. It's not a good strategy for personal development, and it's not a good way of seeking out truth in the world, to just repeat things that other people have said without properly understanding what you're saying and without really taking it into consideration and making it your own and incorporating it. And maybe that sounds like a distinction without a difference, but there really is a difference that I can perceive, and I don't know if I can describe it. It's very tempting when you hear something smart being said to feel like you could be smart just by saying that thing, and you'll feel like a smart person, and you might be perceived as a smart person by others if you just repeat that. But it's just not a good strategy for finding truth in the world. It's just a play. It's just a performance that you're putting on. You're playing the part of a smart person in a script that you've written yourself. But at the same time, nobody can be expected to derive all knowledge from first principles. We've got to stand on the shoulders of giants, as they say, and use the wisdom of those who've come before to inform our own points of view, to whatever extent it is still useful to do so. And certainly we should still admire those people who come up with new ideas and new ways of thinking and broaden the human spectrum of knowledge. Those are certainly admirable people, but they are remarkable because they're very rare. There's not that many people who come along in history who really change things up and innovate rather than evolve. But even those people who come up with new discoveries and new ideas aren't worth much until those ideas can be broadcast to the world and communicated effectively. And sometimes those ideas are communicated by the people who come up with them, and sometimes they're just written down and then someone else finds them and makes them exciting and new and teaches them to everyone else. I'm sure that if Carl Jung had a YouTube channel in the modern day, it wouldn't be as popular as Jordan Peterson's YouTube channel, for instance. And I guess that's one way you can tell the difference, actually, between people who are just doing an impression of a smart person and just repeating things they've heard said, and people who have taken on those ideas, incorporated them into themselves, and are communicating a new, fresh angle on the subject. And that's if someone like Jordan Peterson, when he's talking about an idea of Carl Jung's, he specifically says, Carl Jung says ... or Carl Jung's idea was ... He credits the person he's talking about because he doesn't feel like he has to take credit for himself. He's not so insecure that he needs to pretend that Carl Jung's ideas are his ideas. That's just one way. That's not the rule for telling the difference between mechanical ideological speech and actual effective communication. But I've got more to say about this, but I think I'll leave it here for now. And as always, please let me know what you think, and I'll see you again very soon. Thank you for watching.